He's one of the wealthiest people in the entertainment industry today, and right now he's facing down a bombshell lawsuit from his estranged husband, who's accusing him of trapping him in an abusive relationship, then refusing to honor the promises he's made. The splashy suit is a hot topic right now, so we're digging into all the details. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Elizabeth Millner, in for Jesse Weber. He may not be someone you immediately recognize as Hollywood royalty, but David Geffen has more than likely had a hand in some of your favorite music and movies. The now 82-year-old has been an executive for multiple music labels, helping advance the careers from everyone from the Eagles and Bob Dylan to Cher and Blink-182. His Geffen Film Company produced classics like Beetlejuice and Risky Business. He was a Broadway backer for the musicals Dreamgirls and Cats, and in 1994, he founded DreamWorks SKG Studio. According to Forbes, as of 2024, Geffen is believed to be the richest person in the entertainment industry worldwide. He has an estimated net worth of $9 billion, with a B, dollars. Known for his philanthropy, Geffen has donated huge sums of monies to universities and art programs. UCLA School of Medicine is named after him, and so is Yale School of Drama. Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts in New York has a David Geffen Hall, and there's a David Geffen Theater at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures in Los Angeles. But David Geffen's estranged husband says that behind the scenes, Geffen used his money, power, and influence to satisfy his sexual desires to the detriment of those around him. In a 33-page lawsuit filed, by the way, by Brian J. Friedman, the same attorney who's representing Justin Baldoni in his legal fight with former It Ends With Us co-star Blake Lively, David Armstrong, also known as Donovan Michaels, in the complaint says that Geffen used and abused him. Now, this is what the complaint says. Michaels is a 32-year-old survivor of the foster care system who was pulled into the orbit of an exploiter, masquerading as a white knight while hiding behind wealth, philanthropy, and fame. Michaels did not meet Geffen in a boardroom, at a gala, or through mutual friends. He met him on SeekingArrangements.com, a website where men like Geffen shop for the vulnerable. The site, which now goes simply by Seeking.com, is a dating platform for the rich and famous. On its homepage, it states, quote, "Seeking is the premier dating site for success-minded singles. Those who possess the mindset tailored for success in life also possess the same mindset necessary for success in love. Our platform is designed to foster genuine and authentic connections between our members, leading to the good life, lasting partnerships, and love." Sounds super sweet, right? Well, the site also expressly states that sugar daddy situations and paying for sex are forbidden. But Michael says that didn't stop Geffen from finding him on the site and offering him $10,000 for one night, which eventually turned into monthly payments for sex work. According to Michaels' complaint, Geffen used a toxic mix of seduction, control, promises of love, and lavish displays of wealth to entrap Michaels in a cycle of dependency, submission, and humiliation. Behind the glittering facade of their relationship was a calculated pattern of abuse and commodification. Michaels claims he acted as a sex worker who was at Geffen's beck and call. He traveled with Geffen around the world on Geffen's super yacht, his constant companion for years. Eventually, Geffen reportedly told Michaels that he had fallen in love with him, and he wanted to be an equal partner in the relationship. The two got married in March of 2023, and critically, Michaels says the two did not have a prenuptial agreement, so no prenup was signed. Michaels said that the two entered an oral agreement that laid out Geffen's expectations of Michaels and what Michaels would get in return. The lawsuit reads, in the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic in Los Angeles County, Geffen sat Michaels down to discuss with Michaels a serious matter. Geffen told Michaels that he had fallen in love with him, respected him, and wanted to share his life with him as a life partner, not as a sex worker. Geffen also told Michaels that he would no longer pay him for sex, and the monthly payments to his check account would stop. Instead, he would take care of Michaels as if he was his life partner. Geffen was clear that this was an entirely different relationship and that he wanted Michael to take on more roles as any spouse would do for their partner. Geffen explained that in exchange, Michaels would share equally with him the fruits of his financial success and take care of him for the rest of his life. According to Michaels, he had hoped to pursue a modeling career, but Geffen allegedly told him he didn't need to, quote, waste his time doing that, and didn't need to make his own money. The lawsuit states Michaels would forgo his modeling career and render certain social, emotional, and domestic services to Geffen and the couple, which included, but was not limited to, being Geffen's confidant, rendering emotional support and companionship to Geffen, being a travel companion to Geffen as his partner, not sex worker, offering Geffen constant advice on health and wellness, supporting Geffen's social, charitable, and political aspirations, performing services as a house manager by helping to coordinate with Geffen's staff, help to coordinate and throw parties and events, providing various home remodeling and maintenance services, and caretaking for Geffen. And according to Michaels, on numerous occasions throughout the couple's relationship, the oral agreements were ratified and reaffirmed by the couple. I want to thank Odoo for sponsoring this episode of Sidebar. Odoo is a powerful all-in-one business software that helps you manage everything from sales to accounting and, yes, even manufacturing. Schedule your production, manage your assembly line, and fine-tune your work orders with Odoo's all-in-one easy-to-use platform. Need fully assembled manufacturing software that puts your business ahead of schedule? Well, Odoo has you covered. Plus, Odoo's manufacturing app syncs seamlessly with your sales, inventory, and purchasing modules, so everything stays connected and running smoothly. Check out Odoo to take your manufacturing process to the next level and get a free 15-day trial today at odoo.com/sidebarmanufacturing. Michaels claimed his husband often showed him off to his rich friends, bragging that he had saved Michaels from what was sure to be a life of poverty and sex work. Quote, during social visits, Geffen regularly bragged to his rich and successful friends, often while Michaels was present, that Michaels had a very difficult childhood and that Geffen was rescuing him and saving his life. Invariably, Geffen would brag to his friends, including celebrities and media moguls, that because of him and his willingness to take care of Michaels for the rest of his life, the bad part of Michaels' life was over. Michaels found Geffen's public braggadocio for social virtue points demeaning and humiliating, and for that reason, he came to dread the social gatherings Geffen arranged with his A-list friends. In the lawsuit, Michaels admitted to frequently using drugs and alcohol and saying that Geffen offered him cocaine on their first night that they were together. He claimed Geffen and Geffen's rich friends often did drugs like cocaine and Molly on the super yacht. Michaels also claimed that Geffen enjoyed being dominant in the bedroom, something that Michaels says ended up causing him injury. When Michaels entered a 12-step program to try to get sober, he says he realized he needed to be more independent and grow as his own person. He claims Geffen didn't like that at all and demanded a divorce. According to Michaels, when Geffen was partying it up in Venice, Italy for Jeff Bezos' wedding to Lauren Sanchez, he demanded Michaels vacate their luxury New York City apartment. He also cut off any and all financial assistance with Michaels, saying that he had no money of his own and was essentially left homeless. So what causes of action is Michaels claiming in his lawsuit? Well, he's suing for breach of oral contract as it pertains to equal ownership in all property and assets, breach of implied contract in assets acquired, breach of express oral contract for lifetime support, breach of implied contract for support, quantum merit, which is a Latin phrase meaning as much as he has earned and is a way of quantifying worth of services or benefits provided without a formal contract, and declaratory relief, meaning Michaels is looking for a judge to help straighten out this contentious situation. Michaels doesn't put down a dollar amount on the compensation he's seeking, saying that he needs to determine all the assets Geffen has that he might be entitled to. People magazine reports that a court order was issued in May as a part of their divorce, requiring both Geffen and Michaels to share their financial information, including things like bank statements and valuations, as well as property assets and debts. And they have 60 days to do just that. Geffen's attorney Patty Glazier said in a statement to the LA Times, there was no contract, express, written, oral, or implied, that has ever existed. We will be vigorously and righteously defending against this false, pathetic lawsuit. Well, to help me get into some of the legalese of all of this, I want to welcome back Mauricio Padilla, who practices both criminal and civil law. So, Mauricio, I got to ask, what's your reaction to this lawsuit?
Well, first of all, it reads a little bit like a novel. I'm not used to complaints in civil court reading like the way that this one read. He kind of paints his client out to be, I think he uses the word vulnerable. That the website Seeking Arrangements is where I guess rich men or rich people go to seek out the vulnerable. I would dispute that. I don't think. I would describe people that have opened up an ad on Seeking Arrangements as vulnerable, and I think a lot of the facts in the complaint really don't go hand in hand with what he's trying to get the court or the reader to think, including that his client, number one, is vulnerable, and number one, that someone should feel sorry for his client. This is someone that was accepting $10,000, to have sex with the guy, and he basically got to live like, with a billionaire for all these years. So I don't know. I read it. I also feel that I was kind of anticipating that a lot of these arguments would have been made in the divorce case. I understand that Geffen did file for divorce in May, and at least in Florida, some of these counts may have been decided, which is where I practice civil court, is in Florida. Some of these counts may have been addressed by the divorce court. So maybe there'll be some type of pleadings in California regarding, hey, listen, we're already in court on the divorce matter. We have a judge, and some of these counts could be, inextricably intertwined with the divorce, and the divorce judge would be the person best to make that decision.
And are you surprised by some of the allegations in it in terms of just these oral agreements? In terms of the oral agreements, how binding are they? If there's nothing formally written down and perhaps no witnesses to these statements, does it just become like a he said type of thing? Or do you think that Michaels' attorneys, they reference both the implied contract and express contract? Kind of, what's the difference between all these legalese in terms of this written and oral contract, the versus?
Right. Well, listen, I mean, there's some situations where an oral contract could be binding on people, but there's so many restrictions on when an oral contract would not be binding that, in my experience, it's rare to succeed because there's so many restrictions on when you really should put something in writing. And then there's something called the statute of frauds that, applies to Florida, California, and all states in the United States, where it gives an outline of when an oral contract is not appropriate. Like, for instance, you cannot do an oral contract when it comes to anything regarding real property. Land, a house, has to be in writing. There's certain limits. Like if it's more than a certain amount of money, it has to be in writing. If it's something that cannot be performed within a 6-month period of time, usually it has to be in writing. That's the way that the courts limit the ability for someone to say, hey, you know what? 4 years ago, you orally told me blah, 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 and now I'm going to sue you for it. Because then that would open up the floodgates, and people, would be suing for all types of oral promises. And I think the courts in all states, California, Florida, and all the states in the United States, they want to promote putting things in writing. That's going to be an issue one way or the other. I'm anticipating, you're going to see motions to dismiss and things of that nature regarding the fact that none of this was in writing.
And do you think that any part of you thinks that this complaint or this lawsuit was filed in order to possibly just embarrass David Geffen? I mean, he's a huge name. He has a lot of money. In terms of just the allegations overall, it just seems like kind of the gist of it is just that Michaels was kicked out of the home, and then Geffen had filed for divorce too. And it seems like maybe this is just kind of a counter for what had happened in him filing for divorce. Like maybe if, a blank check was written, that maybe this complaint would have never been filed. But what do you think? Or am I just kind of throwing it out there?
I mean, possibly. I mean, I would not, if I was, representing this gentleman in the divorce, I would not promote filing this type of thing, because at the end of the day, okay, you guys broke up, you're married, and all these disputes could be handled one way or the other in the divorce. Even if some of these counts are counts that cannot be heard by the divorce court, at the end of the day, in a universal sense, it's a dispute between two people that were married. So you could have let that play out instead of taking the opportunity to file this lawsuit. So yeah, I think it could be a grab for attention, and it could be an opportunity for them to include things that maybe in the divorce would have been irrelevant, would have been a subject to a motion to strike. And honestly, like when I read it, which I'm thinking maybe a judge is going to feel the same way, there's a lot in there that really goes beyond what you would expect in a legal pleading about feeling bad for him, and all the things that he suffered, and it really goes into a narrative that goes beyond in detail and in trying to garner sympathy for his client that you usually don't see. And at the end of the day, I don't know how many people are going to be feeling sorry for this guy. It is what it is. And I read on there that they got married without a prenup. Right. So, I practice family law, and I'm going to tell you that if you're a billionaire, you marry somebody without a prenup, he has a payday coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's not going to walk with nothing. I believe that this could have been premature. And then you're forcing him to lawyer up and really defend this. And his position, Geffen's position, is going to be like, now you came for my throat.
Yeah,
you've made all these allegations. You filed a separate. So now I'm going to fight you on the divorce case. And imagine, in any time that you are litigating against a billionaire, That's an issue too, because you're talking about unlimited resources. They're going to come at you hard. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his game plan was.
Yeah, and I
Honestly.
was surprised by this complaint or this lawsuit too, for that exact reason, that being that there was no prenup signed. And in terms of if there was a prenup that would have been signed, what kind of difference do you think this would have made? I would expect an automatic kind of payout if they were together for so many years, that type of thing. But maybe I think under 2 years, I wouldn't expect such a big amount of his wealth, because David Geffen's worth a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars. And so why do you think that there was no prenup that was signed?
Obviously, Mr. Geffen thought that he was in love and this was going to be for the rest of his life. I mean, anybody that gets married without a prenup is putting themselves out there. The reason that I say that I think he has a payday coming is no matter how long the length of marriage, when you're dealing with somebody that's a billionaire, from the moment that he got married to him to the moment that they separated, everything is marital. So yeah, you're a billionaire. How much did you generate in 2024? 100 million, that's marital. How much did you generate in 2023? 100 million, that's marital. So that's the issue when you make that type of money, that if you don't have a prenup, everything, every property that you bought, every dollar that you made for yourself, not for his businesses, but that is factored into his own wealth. So yeah, I mean, there's money there one way or the other.
And what kind of response do you expect from David Geffen's legal team in terms of, their response filing or something to that nature?
A scorching motion to dismiss, motion to strike, motion for sanctions. They're going to go after the actual attorney, I'm pretty sure, and say that, as an attorney, you should have never filed this. For multiple reasons. There's different rules in different states where there's mechanisms that could switch the attorney's fees. So there's like in Florida, there's one called 57105 that you pretty much put the person on notice and let them know what you filed. Your client and yourself as an attorney should have known that there was not based in fact or law and that you should have never filed it. So I would anticipate a motion to dismiss and some type of attack where they're telling them, we're coming after attorney's fees from you and your lawyer for even filing this.
And what's it like when you're representing a client where maybe it did start off as love and maybe it did start off as a loving relationship? It's kind of hard with this case specifically because they met through seeking arrangements, or seeking as it's called now. And, maybe it started off as transactional relationship. Then from David Geffen's point of view, maybe it was actual love. They got married. They did so even without a prenup. And then it turns into this. So what is it kind of like, I think, on both ends for David Geffen's perspective and even Michaels' perspective in terms of just how it started off maybe good, maybe great, and then it just is going to sour. And I can see this playing out very publicly for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, there's something to be said about when a relationship starts as transactional, it's going to be transactional forever. So the problem is that now, no matter what, now that he broke up with him, now the guy's coming after him. People could say, listen, you should have been able to read the tea leaves early on if that's what he was interested in the beginning. I mean, once you're paying somebody for sex, I don't know if you could ever get over that. And now we no longer have a transactional relationship, but we love each other. That's something that I guess Geffen's going to have to think about next go around. As far as, success on the merits regarding this case, I don't know, maybe it was a ploy to try to get him come to the table and negotiate better in the divorce. I'm unclear whether he has the same attorney in the divorce case as he does in the civil matter. But it also could have been an opportunity to further attack his reputation. Even though I think a lot of people are going to read this and going to be like, okay, so what's the problem? Like, if you're a billionaire and you want to marry some young hot guy, you could do it. And that guy, yeah, you're doing it to your peril. At the end of the day, the moment that he divorces you, you're back to being who you were. Just because you married him doesn't mean that now you may never have to work again, which is something that I deal with all the time, where, people marry people that are extremely wealthy and they think that because I was married to you for 2, 3, 4 years, I never have to work again. There's no law that says that. And, Florida, where I'm from, has restricted alimony over and over again. And they've made it more difficult for one spouse to make another spouse pay alimony. I'm unclear regarding the California law. I think it's a little bit better for spouses that are requesting alimony in California, from my understanding. But yeah, listen, I think it's going to be interesting what they're going to file in response. But I can anticipate, some serious attacks.
Yeah, I expect a scorching kind of response, just like you were saying earlier too, Mauricio. And I want to thank you so much for your time and your insight into this. Before we sign you off, though, after the fiery response that we're possibly expecting from David Geffen's legal team, what else do you think is going to be happening next in this case?
I mean, the way it works is they'll file motions to dismiss, and motions to dismiss are based on the four corners of the complaint. So you're asking for it to be dismissed based on some procedural defect or the fact that it doesn't satisfy the elements of the civil counts that are addressed in the lawsuit. But then eventually, if they overcome that, then eventually there's motion for summary judgment. And motion for summary judgment is when you're telling a judge, we don't need a trial, because based on the law and based on the facts of the case, the court can make this determination without us having to spend money on a trial. There'll be discovery, the discovery phase, which someone like Geffen is not looking forward to that because it's going to be intrusive. It's going to be intrusive both personally, financially. They can go as far as trying to subpoena text messages, trying to find out who else he was sleeping with. It's going to be intrusive, and intrusive for anyone, and especially billionaires, with all the money they have and all the connections and all the communications that they have with other people. There'll be discovery phase, and then at some point I'm anticipating a battle of motions for summary judgment to see whether or not this case is something that's going to actually go to trial.
I'd be very surprised if it even goes that far. But Mauricio Padilla, I guess we'll see how this all continues to play out. Thank you again so much for your time and your insight into this case. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Nice seeing you.
Well, that does it for this episode of Sidebar. If you want to see more episodes, head over to the Law&Crime YouTube page or subscribe to us anywhere you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. I'm Elizabeth Millner in for Jesse Weber, and this has been Sidebar presented by Law&Crime.